You know, some stories don't start at the beginning, they start at the end, with a discovery, a moment that changes everything. And this story, it begins on a quiet morning, with the door that was never, ever supposed to be open. Picture this. It's a Monday morning in Antwerp, Belgium. This is the diamond capital of the world. A security guard at the Diamond Centre is starting his patrol, a walk he's probably done 1,000 times before. But this morning was going to be different. He makes his way down to the subterranean vault, 2 floors beneath the city. And as he gets to that massive steel door, he just freezes. It's open. What he was about to find inside would launch one of the biggest diamond theft investigations in history. The value? Well, it was estimated at over $100 million. The scene inside was just controlled chaos. Dozens of safe deposit boxes ripped open. Diamonds, gold, cash, jewels, all of it gone. The floor was littered with tools and debris. But here's the thing. No alarms went off. No signs of a forced entry. The question just hung there in the air, heavy and unbelievable. How on earth was this even possible? To even start to answer that, you have to understand the vault itself. I mean, this wasn't just some room with a thick door. It was a fortress, engineered from the ground up to be the most secure place in the entire diamond district. It was buried deep underground, a box inside of a box, really, with 10 separate layers of security. Each one was like a new puzzle designed to stop any thief in their tracks. Everyone considered it completely, totally impenetrable. Just getting inside meant you had to beat a magnetic field that would scream an alarm if the door was messed with. It meant you had to fool seismic sensors that could feel the tiniest vibration from a drill. You'd have to get past heat and motion detectors, and that's all before you even got to the door, a 3-ton slab of steel that could take 12 straight hours of drilling. And behind that, a combination lock with 100 million possible codes. So how do you defeat a fortress like that? Well, the answer doesn't start with a team of commandos. It starts with one man, an Italian thief named Leonardo Notarbartolo. Now, Notarbartolo wasn't your run-of-the-mill criminal. He was an artist. He'd started stealing when he was just 6 years old, and by the time he was 30, he was running his own crew, making a real name for himself. For him, stealing wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Then, one day, a diamond merchant who knew about Notarbartolo's reputation comes to him with a really strange offer. He doesn't ask him to rob the Antwerp vault. He offers him 100,000 euros just to find out one thing. Could it be robbed? Was the impossible actually possible? When Notarbartolo came back and said it just might be, the merchant showed his hand. He'd already put a team together, a crew of specialists, these shadowy figures known only by their nicknames. The genius, who was an expert in alarm systems. The monster, a master locksmith. The king of keys, a guy who could supposedly copy any key. In Notarbartolo, the mastermind, he brought in his own guy, a childhood friend, a lookout they called Speedy. So, the team is set. And now, the real work starts. This wasn't going to be a quick smash and grab. This was going to be the longest, most careful part of the whole operation. They were going to take that fortress apart, not with dynamite, but with patience. Notarbartolo posed as a diamond dealer and rented a box in the very same vault he was planning to rob. It gave him access. Over months and months of visits, he studied every single detail. He hid a tiny camera in the ceiling right above the vault door, and it recorded the guards punching in that 100 million combination code. They even built a full-scale replica of the vault in a warehouse just to practice every single move. And, you know, their breakthroughs, they were often so simple it was brilliant. They figured out that the heat and motion sensor had a fail-safe. It would only go off if it detected both heat and motion at the same time. So how do you beat a multi-million-dollar security system? With a can of hairspray. A light mist insulated the heat sensor so it couldn't see their body heat. And just like that, the alarm was blind. 2 years. 2 years of all this careful planning. And it all came down to one night, February 15th, 2003. The whole city of Antwerp was glued to a big tennis match, and while they were watching, the team moved in. They followed a route they'd scouted out perfectly, slipped into a private garden next door, avoiding every camera. 4 of the guys used a ladder to get up onto a balcony and into the building, and one by one they defeated every single security layer, just like they had practiced 100 times before. Once they were actually inside the vault, they were quiet, methodical. They had the combination. They had a special tool to pop the locks on the deposit boxes. And for hours, they just filled their bags with whatever they could find in 109 different boxes. On their way out, they even stopped by the security office and took the surveillance tapes, erasing any proof they were ever there. They made it back to Notarbartolo's apartment. They were victorious. They had pulled it off, the perfect, impossible crime. But as they started to open the bags and look at their score, the party came to a very sudden stop. A lot of the bags, they were empty. The total take was closer to $20 million, not the 100+ million they were expecting. And in that moment, it all came crashing down. They were just pawns. The merchant who hired them, he'd already cleaned out the most valuable boxes himself. He just used their perfect crime as the perfect cover for a gigantic insurance scam. They'd been betrayed, but there was no time to dwell on it. They had to scatter. The plan was to split up and meet later on. Notarbartolo and Speedy jumped in a car and started driving for the border. They had just pulled off the heist of the century. Now, all they had to do was disappear. But on the highway, Speedy, he started coming apart at the seams. He got paranoid, insisting they had to stop right then and there and burn all the evidence, the tools, the notes, everything. So they pulled off onto this quiet little lane. And just as they were about to light the bag on fire, they heard a car coming, and they panicked. In their rush to get out of there, they didn't burn the bag. They just dumped everything out into a ditch and sped off, thinking nobody would ever find it. But in that bag was everything. Receipts for their gear, a few stray diamonds, a half-eaten salami sandwich, and a letter addressed to the Antwerp Diamond Centre. Now, the roadside where they dumped all that trash, it happened to belong to a local man, an eccentric guy who had one major pet peeve: litter. And he had a very specific habit of calling the police on anyone who dumped trash on his land. So when this landowner called the police, he happened to mention the letter from the Diamond Centre, and that got their attention. That bag of trash was a roadmap that led the police right to the crew. A receipt in there had Notarbartolo's name on it. The DNA from that salami sandwich matched one of the other guys. Within days, most of the team was identified and arrested. Only the King of Keys. He was never seen again. In the end, this massive, multi-million-dollar heist, planned for 2 years, a crime that beat one of the most advanced security systems in the world, it was all unraveled by a moment of panic, a bag of trash, and a half-eaten sandwich. It really makes you wonder about that razor-thin line between a perfect crime and a perfect failure.